8 o'clock. Good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad that you are joining us. My name is Andrea Miller. I'm the founding board member and executive director of Center for Common Ground. And I am joined here by Alan Minsky, who is the executive director of Progressive Democrats of America, and also he is the founder of the Tim Carpenter Institute. So we are going to respect the fact that you are here, we are here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So, Alan, go ahead and take it away. And I just saw a very special name, Juju Carpenter.
Yes, thank you so much, Andrea. And off the top, I have some relatively brief opening remarks. And first of all, even before speaking about the great and brilliant Tim Carpenter, I just want to say how absolutely thrilled I am to be working now in a close coordination with the Center for Common Ground and Andrea Miller. Um, as the evening proceeds, you'll hear about the projects that both the Carpenter Institute and Center for Common Ground are working on, and I think you'll see there's an amazing overlap and a just a beautiful um, shared vision for what we believe can be a great democratic society here in America. But it's going to take organizing, it's going to take education, and it's education and getting information out to the world that is the founding principle of the Tim Carpenter Institute. But the Tim Carpenter Institute is wholly inspired by the life and work of somebody who I think of every day when I work in my other capacity as executive director of PDA, and that is Tim Carpenter. And what we've set up in setting up the Tim Carpenter Institute is explicitly a research and educational institution that exists to study the progressive left in its successes, in its failures, in its place in society, to give us all a better understanding of what it was that Tim Carpenter was working for so that we can proceed accordingly. And it is also in the grounding declaration and mission statement of the Tim Carpenter Institute, connected very much to building a democratic society and how democracy is doing, prospering and failing domestically and internationally. So there's the focus on understanding progressive movements around the world and in the country, but with a clear parallel, not subtext, but a parallel approach to understanding democratic societies. And that's the focus of the research at the Tim Carpenter Institute. I do have to say that I have been privileged in my lifetime to work at Pacifica Radio in a rather, important capacity in my days there, and also at the Progressive Democrats of America. In both cases, I've come away with an incredible appreciation that I can continue the work of Lou Hill, the founder of Pacifica Radio. And in my capacity, my job over at PDA, I continue the work of Tim Carpenter, as well as the brilliant founding generation of PDA that included Steve Cobble, Lila Garrett, and then, of course, Andrea Miller followed, and so many people followed in the work that was done at PDA. But Tim Carpenter was the founding executive director of PDA. And I think it's much like Andrea has done so spectacularly with the Center for Common Ground. It's one thing to build upon the work somebody has done in founding a national institution. It's on a whole nother level of accomplishment to be the person who has the foresight and pushes through and builds up from scratch into something that makes the kind of societal impact that Pacifica Radio has made and that Progressive Democrats of America has made. And so I live in dialogue with Tim Carpenter constantly. And as such, I was so thrilled to set up a 501c3 research and educational foundation in Tim Carpenter's name. And it is structured to have a lot of different projects under its platform. Right now, there are already 3 that are launched. We're going to focus on one of them. But I do want to say before I talk about the 3 that have launched that we are also planning on holding a symposium about the relationship of foreign policy to the left and to peace and the peace movement to the left. And this, of course, also gets at the core work of Tim Carpenter. Currently, the 3 ongoing projects are an economic project studying federal money called the Federal Money Project. There is a podcast done by a great podcast host and producer, Rachel Rybacek, that is studying working class, that produces podcasts about the role of working class Americans in our electoral political system and how much of a struggle it is for people from working class backgrounds to be involved, especially at the higher levels of electoral politics. It's a great podcast called Shifting Terrain. And then the third project is thanks to the great Mimi Kennedy, that we launched something called the Voters Calendar under the Tim Carpenter Institute umbrella. And thanks to a grant from the Annenberg Foundation, we've been able to expand that. And we're expanding it into something that we still need a good amount of funding for, called the Democracy Defenders Project. And I'll be telling people about that as we go forward in the course of the next 2 hours. And so those are our ongoing projects, and that's the Tim Carpenter Institute. And I am absolutely honored to honor Tim Carpenter tonight, as this is the first public event that we have held for the Tim Carpenter Institute. And I want to give a shout out to Barbara, Sheila, and Juju. I understand Juju is here. And I'll let you know that Connor Boylan, who worked so closely with Tim Carpenter. In fact, I met Tim Carpenter twice, once very briefly. And then I did work with Tim Carpenter across the continent, along with Mike Hirsch, because they would have these forums up on Capitol Hill that they would to make audio recordings of. They'd send them to me, and I'd process them into a syndicated show on Pacifica Radio. And I was in touch with Tim while that was going on. But I did, with Connor Boylan, one evening get to spend well over an hour sitting out on a porch near the top of the mountains that separate Los Angeles Central from the valley on Sepulveda on a porch. And we talked, I don't know, might have lasted as long as 2 hours. And I just want to let everybody know that Connor Boylan sends his love. Connor's in Ireland right now, so he can't be with us. And Connor certainly extends his love and gratitude to Barbara, Sheila, and Juju. 3 people who I don't know, but I have tremendous respect for, and we honor as well tonight. So here we are for the founding public event of the Tim Carpenter Institute. And I hand back to Andrea Miller, someone who worked hand in hand with Tim Carpenter for years.
Thank you very much, Alan, for those marvelous words about him. The Center for Common Ground, for those of you who don't know us, our superpower is we work on turning out the Black vote in the South. So Alabama in 2017, that was us. Virginia in 2018. In 2019, Virginia again. I'm based in Virginia. And then in 2020, we were looking at Virginia. We worked in Georgia and Texas and Florida and many states. And that was also one of our first forays into North Carolina. We have also, in the ensuing years, done work in Wisconsin. It is not a southern state, but Wisconsin is a voter suppression state. So we are looking to be able to benefit from and support the work of the Carpenter Institute with the context that we have in the South, both the urban South and the rural South, and then also work with them to really have them follow what are all the voter suppression tactics that are going on, and then we will work to come up with ways to mitigate them. Now, one of the other things that people tend not know about us is we are a tech house, meaning we find, develop tech tools. One of our board members is here, Deepak Puri, who has built tools for us over the years. And what I'm going to do right now is I am going to show you a couple of very exciting tools, which I'm going to have to load because I loaded them too early. And so are they coming up? Here they are. So let's take a look at some new things we will be utilizing in Virginia in 2025. All right. Now, you're looking at a screen and people are going, oh my goodness, what are you looking at? You're looking at a visual representation of a voter file with very live data. This is Chesterfield County where I used to live. And if you have ever worked with a voter file and you had to try to select voters to canvass, you know it's close your eyes, pick your voters, and hope that when they give you a number, you end up with something that is canvassable. Now, this is Chesterfield County. What do you see? There are 79 precincts. There are 249,000 voters. 135 of them are women, 113,000 of them are men, and the average age is 49.65. Now, I just mentioned we work with Black voters. I'm going to choose B, whiz, whiz, whiz. And remember, this thing is operating while Zoom is running. There are 63,000 Black voters across 79 precincts. Now, when you are working on building a canvassing group, you need areas that are canvassable, preferably by precinct. All 79 of my precincts are right here. And I have the ability, and again, remember, I'm operating this and Zoom is running. There are 858 Black voters in precinct 1. Now I'm going to walk to precinct 2. And I'm going to take a look how canvassable, walkable is this district. The whole goal of this tool is to make setting up a good canvas something that even non-technical people will have the ability to do. So this is one tool. And Mimi, I know this is going to make you smile. This tool was developed by our own dear Benny Smith. So this is what Benny is doing now. All right, now, next tool. The next tool is Beam. This is going to be very, very, very important for us in the movement because, and my screens, I opened them up way too soon. All right, it's going to force me to log in again. When we look at elections, there are really three parts of elections that literally go on all year. And they are survey the vote, get out the vote, and protect the vote. You saw one of our get out the vote tools. These next tools that you're only going to look at for a moment are tools where we will be looking at getting out the vote. So part of getting out the vote as our voters get older is going to be making sure our voters have the ability to get to the polls. So we have something called fleet management for you, where a campaign, an organization, a group of activists, you can set up your vehicles. You can then set up your drivers. And then you have the ability to book rides. Basically, we are turning you into Uber for voters. And as you can see, these are very simple screens. The other thing we have to do is protect the vote. John, cue up the video, please. Our Beam tool also will allow you to have a mobile app. And here's the mobile app. If you get in trouble and need assistance, I'm okay, monitor me, I'm having an emergency. We can also use this tool to survey the vote. We can also use it for election protection. So, Deepak, we developed a marvelous product called See Something, Say Something. This now is a phone app where we can literally have people at the polls check in. We are monitoring them. They can let us know if they are having a problem. You see that little walkie-talkie on the screen? They can press and hold that walkie-talkie button and they can talk to other canvassers if this is how you choose to program it, or they can talk to whoever dispatched the canvas team. So you've got surveys, you've got rides to the polls, and we now have the ability to protect our canvassers, our drivers, because our drivers also get dispatched on this app. And we can also protect our poll workers because it is not 1990 anymore when many of the tools that we are using to do field work were invented. And John, thank you so very, very much. All right, now, I don't think we have Attorney
Andrea,
Jeff.
we do. We
We
do have
do.
the Attorney General, yes, and Kristen Nunes.
All right, great. Marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. Then let me, there he is. Marvelous. All right, our very first guest. Let's bring Attorney General Keith Ellison to the screen.
Hey, everybody.
You look great.
You look better. Hey, there's
I
Heather in there. Hey, Alan.
Hey, Keith.
Sorry
There's
if I
a
don't
lot
see
of
you in
friends
there, but
here.
I see a lot of friends, so it's good to see you.
I'm going to give the floor to you. People didn't come here to hear me when you were here.
Well, we all got to hear each other, as you know, and I just wanted to say thank you all for the hard work that you're doing, the organizing that you're doing now. I know that you all have been watching the situation very carefully, and you understand what the score is. I don't need to go over this what's happening because you know what's happening. But if there's anybody in America who knows that we are flat out dealing with fascism right now, it's you. So I don't have to break it all down. You already know that. You're way ahead of the crew. I will say, with your permission, that I have to stop and just make a moment about my friend Melissa Hortman. Some of you may have met her. Some of you may have heard of her. But I can tell you that if you heard of the trifecta in Minnesota a few years ago, where we passed driver's license for all, universal school meals, where we passed increased the child tax credit, dramatic steps in the area of environmental justice, where we basically did a lot of really cool things in Minnesota when we got our trifecta. None of it could have happened without Melissa. She's not one of those standard politicians who had to be dragged along by the progressive movement. No, she was in front of the band. She was pushing it. She insisted upon door knocking. She insisted upon relationship building. And I can tell you that I was in Congress for 12 years and nobody in leadership ever asked me what I was doing to increase voter turnout. They asked me about donating money every single day, but they never asked me how I was going to go reach new voters. Well, Melissa asked her people every day, what are you doing to reach new voters? What are you doing to go, okay, you're 80% turnout. You're not 85 yet, though. What are you doing to get there? Door knocking and engagement is not just about winning elections, it's about building a relationship so people can trust you and hold you accountable as well. I met her in 1997. I was the head of something called the Legal Rights Center, and she was a legal aid lawyer. And if anybody on the call knows anything about legal aid lawyers, those are the least well-paid lawyers around. These are the lawyers who are in it because they want to help people and do the right thing. And but I tell you, she took she had a client whose name was Stormy Harmon. It's a matter of public record. And Stormy was an African American mom of three, single mom. And the landlord had them living in squalor and very bad conditions. We'll call them foul names a lot. And one time the landlord said, not one time, but more than one time, said, Stormy, girls don't have to pay rent if they're nice to me. And so Melissa took her case, sued that landlord, and won $490,000 for that family in 1997. And the judge then reduced the award down to about 250, but that changed that family's life, and sent a very strong message to landlords who wanted to take advantage of people. That's who Melissa Hortman was. So when that anti-choice religious zealot broke into her home at 2 o'clock in the morning and shot her and her husband to death, she was not targeted because she was a politician. She was targeted because she was an effective progressive politician, because she stood up for a woman's right to choose, stood up for the right for kids to learn on a full stomach. And I don't bring this up to put you guys in a down mood, because that's the last thing Melissa would want. She was actually a very happy and upbeat person. And she would say to all of us on this call, it is our obligation to double down, to stand up, to fight back, to organize. And, I'll just remind us all, because we know this, but I'll just remind us that in 1968, when we lost the great Martin Luther King, he was joining strikers in Memphis, Tennessee. He was joining strikers in Memphis, Tennessee, and the night before, he gave this amazing mountaintop speech. Maybe, I don't know, maybe some of y'all was there. It wouldn't be surprising to me if Heather was in the room, But the thing is that he gave this stirring speech, and he said, I may not get there with you, but we're going to get there. And so he was taken away from us the next day, but the strikers didn't quit. Because why did they murder Martin Luther King? Well, they probably wanted the strike to stop. They wanted him to stop in general. Shut up. Stop talking about Vietnam. Stop being anti-war. Just let us, commit war, wage war and screw the poor wherever we want, however we want. But the fight didn't stop. The fight continued, and they won that strike. And that strike was terrible. These men were treated so badly. Many of you know the story well. But what's my point? My point is, between now and when Trump is out, we may lose our dearest ones, the best of us, but we can't stop. We got to keep on rocking, and we got to keep on marching. And we got to understand how very serious this situation is. These people, these fascists here, they're not kidding. They're not playing with us. And we can't be playing with them. And Melissa was a white woman, upper middle class, suburban. And yet, if you think she's some sort of soccer mom stereotype, you'd be wrong. This woman was in the vein of Viola Liuzzo. Some of you may remember Viola Liuzzo. This is a white woman who left her home in Detroit, Michigan, and drove all the way down to Montgomery to be with the fighters on the front line who were fighting for democracy in America, equal justice for all. and they killed Viola Liuzzo. And if you drive between Selma and Montgomery, you'll see the marker where they took her life. And yet, uh, if you meet her children, they were like, you know what? If my mother had to go, I want her to go the best. I want her to go doing what she was doing, what she loved the most. Of course, nobody wants to have their loved ones snatched away from them. I want to live as long as I can, but I'm gonna tell you, if Trump is willing to shut off um, HIV assistance for people in Africa, if he's willing to throw millions off Medicare and Medicaid now, well, you know, he's not sensitive about life, not mine, not yours. And so we've just got to understand we're in a fight with some ruthless people, and we've got to have tactics, strategies that meet the moment. Now, let me just tell you, the wind is on our side, folks. You all know that. Mom Donnie's victory, they can try to dismiss it all they want, but it is a clear sign that people want someone who's responsive to the needs of the people. They want real, true democracy. They don't want, I mean, in all this respectability politics, and by the way, they're real selective in their respectability. They're like, oh my God, he's a socialist. Well, people are not scared of a word. They're not scared of a slam. They're not scared of what you want to make an epithet. And you know, there's socialism is just one way of people living together to make sure the needs of all are met. And you know what? It does in fact exist parallel to market economies. In the United States, your firefighting is socialized. Your water is cleaning is socialized. Your public safety is socialized. Your national defense is socialized. So they want to throw this word around to scare people. It's nothing but a word. At the end of the day, Mamdani identified the fact that after 40 years of runaway, rampant, abusive money grabbing, that a good life for the average working person, much less the poor, was not in reach in the city that people were born in, grew up in, and wanted to die in. And he won. Man, he killed Cuomo. Cuomo better ask himself how much embarrassment he can take. He's about to get a whooping again if he actually gets in there as an independent. I hope he does get in. I want the people to reject Cuomoism. And because what is Cuomoism? Cuomoism is do every single thing that the big money boys want you to do, but, you know, throw them a bone here and there. That's what it is. That is not going to satisfy this moment. And Eric Adams is about to get his tail kicked in this general election, and great. Eric Adams I don't understand his psychology. The man said, you committed crimes. We're not saying you didn't. We're saying you did, but we'll let you off if you do my bidding as mayor. I'm like, well, then you don't represent the people of New York. You represent Donald Trump. And if there was any doubt, they had him on Fox News with Tom Homan saying, if you don't do what we say, we're going to be up your butt. Who saw that? I will never forget that. I said, man, not only are you a puppet, you don't mind being called one and outed one as in the public sphere. I thought at least your basic ego needs would not allow you to let yourself be played like that. But you know, Eric is that guy. And so not only is Mamdani's victory a sign, the victory of the Supreme Court justice in Wisconsin is a sign, clearly rejecting Elon Musk. Seemed like a long time ago. Wasn't that long ago. Don't forget about it. It was an important win. And we have been winning, and Democrats have been winning all over the country, but they haven't just been winning to be winning. They're winning on a message of liberty and justice for all, no fascism, women's right to control her own body, fair economy. And that's what's the winning solution right now. And so this is what we should do. This is what we got to help the entire, from the middle to the far left, understand that that's where it's at. Now, I want to speak to a few issues. One of them is the need for solidarity in this moment. The leading identity politician in America is Donald J. Trump. They call people of color, oh, that's identity politics. There ain't no bigger identity politics than Donald J. Trump. He says, you need to stand with me because we are white folks. That's what he basically says. Or we're rich folks, or we're born here folks, because he does have appeal for people of color. And what is his appeal? Stand with me against those foreigners, right? He says, stand with me against those LGBTQ people. We've got to be so good at human solidarity. We've got to embrace each other. We got to lift each other up, and we've got to be real clear. Oh yes, we're men. These women are trying to take over. This is it. But if you can think of a way to divide human beings, he is thinking of it, and he is agitating that line. So we've got to be real deliberate and real public about men supporting women, about racial solidarity and unity, about religious solidarity. I don't care. You don't have to be Muslim. You should denounce the Islamophobia thrown against Mamdani, because it's nothing but a divide and conquer tactic. They're just trying to tell you, oh, that guy can't be your ally because he's got the wrong religion. He prays on the wrong day. Well, this is BS. We've got to be radical solidarity. I'm so proud of Brad Lander. Brad Lander is a good man. And he's like, okay, I didn't win, you did, but we share the same ideas. I'm supporting you. And they cross-endorse each other beforehand. And look, Brad Lander is of the Jewish community. And they did not let that be a barrier between them, because it really is no barrier at all. It's all illusory and something somebody wants to create in order for them to take advantage of us all. So we've got to have a program of solidarity. We can't just take it for granted. We've got to be together deliberately. This friend of mine, he's a white guy. He said he started a group called White Guys for Racial Justice. I said, you know what? That's good. Model it. Because you know what? You're not the first one. I think John Brown started that, But my point is, it is very important for us to see I think it was Mickey Schwerner who they said, well, look, you're a white guy. What are you going down here in 1964 Freedom Summer? He said, I'm not doing anybody any favors. My destiny is connected to the destiny of every other man. And so it is important for us to be real clear about human solidarity. We got to put it out. We got to perpetuate it. We got to teach it. And because it really is the truth. If we all split up into our atomized groups, they'll take us all out one at a time. The other thing, and so we also got to understand that grassroots agitation works. Look at the success of the Take Down Tesla movement. They have split the richest man in the world from the most politically powerful man in the world. They're openly attacking each other. I wouldn't put too much on that, but it is a good sign that they're not as teamed up as they were before. But there are other movements. I mean, I'm telling you, Target, they signed up with Trump on that DEI stuff. I don't walk into Target. I was telling one of the protest leaders, the boycotters, before school starts, because school is going to start, and that's going back to buy backpacks and pencils and notebooks, then Halloween, then Christmas holidays, Hanukkah. You got 3 big money shopping days for Target. Target needs to come to the table, apologize, and then maybe we can go back and shop in their store. But they have to do it. And I would love the symbolism of somebody saying, you know what? I sinned, but now I'm back. But we've got to be able to use that muscle to show. And I think that at this point, it's time to maybe talk to the boycott leaders to talk about escalation. We might want to be talking about how we are going to go out in front of some targets with some signs. Nothing violent. Anybody wants to be violent, please don't come. But let's have a very affirmatively nonviolent picket before school starts, in sometime in August, before mom and them and dad go back and get the kids their school supplies, and call on Target to do the right thing. Say, do you stand with your customers or do you stand with Donald Trump? I'm telling you, we've got to look for more actions all the time, and we've got to continue to build. And let me just say, while I'm on this topic, No King's Day was an overwhelming success. My goodness, that was where it's at. Now the only problem is we got to do it again, only bigger next time. We got to do it again, only bigger next time. But the thing is, it's growing. This happened on the very day that they murdered Melissa. The guy murdered Melissa at 2:00 in the morning, and the No Kings rally was midday. And I went to the rally and gave us and spoke anyway. Now I was glad that the governor didn't go because he needed to stay where he was and help look for that guy. But we needed somebody to be there with the people and show solidarity with the people. And so we've got to be thinking about what's our next thing. And then we've got to come up with that. Because I'm going to tell you this, and then I'm about to wrap up. I'm very proud of the work that the Democratic AGs have been doing. We have filed over 30 lawsuits against Trump, starting with birthright citizenship to empowerment, to National Institute of Health, to National Science Foundation, we sued him because he tried to say he was going to take money from schools unless the schools got rid of DEI. We sued him over that. We sued him for his attack on federal employees. We sued him for saying that if hospitals and clinics don't stop doing gender affirming care, then they're not going to get money. We sued him over that. We sued him because their anti-trans policy. And I'm very proud of what the AGs have been doing. But I got to tell y'all this. This fight won't be won in no courtroom. This fight's going to be won on the street. But that doesn't mean we don't use the courtroom. Of course we use the courtroom. We use every tool to stand up for the people that we can. In fact, our challenge as the leadership vanguard is to think of more ways to engage more people. Mm. Engage more lawyers. We got to engage the faith community. Mm-hmm. I know some of y'all on the call, you're non-theists. You don't go in for any religion. That's great. I have no problem with that. But we might need to be able to get some of the faith people involved. Mm. Imagine the power of Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Buddhist standing together saying this is morally wrong, and we're going to tell all of our congregations that this is wrong and they must stand against it. That's powerful right there. And then our artistic community, where's the song talking about how my dad was arrested by ICE? Mm-hmm. Where is the poem on it? Where is the film on it? We need our artistic community to get really, really thinking about, use their creative tools to move the people with an artistic way. It's very important to understand that if you go back, we were talking about the civil rights movement a moment ago, but Mahalia Jackson was a critical ally in the fight for civil rights, as was Bob Dylan from Minnesota, as was so many, as Johnny Cash, who came up good with some good tunes, Sam Cooke. All of these people, they got in the spirit of the movement and they put their shoulder to it. We've got to have our artists pulling together. Joan Baez, we've got to do it. So we got our faith community people. We got to get our artistic community moving. We got to get our small business community. Our small business community is getting screwed over by monopoly and oligopoly capitalism, and they are not included in this money grab. And so we've got to get them and say, look, these guys, this chamber, they're not on your side. They're not. When's the last time you got a bailout from your little shop? So we've got to work there. We got to reach out to farm community. Can y'all see my t-shirt? Minnesota Farmers Union. We got to get out into the rural communities. We've got to have a national movement that is powerful and impactful that doesn't leave anyone out. And if some rich folks who don't like what Trump is doing want to join, God bless them. When I was in Congress, they had a group called Patriotic Millionaires. I'm like, good. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We've got to be an inclusive movement, and we've got to get institutions like Harvard and they pick on Harvard because they want to attack the university generally. They want to attack the academy generally. So they go after them. They attack Target because they want to make Target and Walmart and institution like that heal. So we've got to, that's why we need to put pressure on them too. And I'm telling you, we will crack this thing. And look, they had to pull out all the stops to get this ugly bill through. And Lisa Murkowski has sold her soul. You know, she's like, oh, it's not done yet. Well, you voted for it. What are you talking about? You know, so bottom line is we need a multi-dimensional attack on the fascism. And we also need one more thing. We need some of y'all to set up an international support committee so that we can be talking to the small d Democrats in Hungary. Did you see how Orban said, you better not have no gay pride parade? Boy, in Budapest, they were out by the millions. I don't know if you saw it, but it was an amazing display of them saying we are going to stand together against the dictator. But you know, we've got to stand. They got this guy, Kurt Wilders in Netherlands. He's a fascist. You know, all these countries, we've got to find a way to get into an international support committee. Latin America, Bukele, we need to be in communication with the people in El Salvador. I'm sure they don't like Bukele. And so this is what we've got to, so we got a lot of work to do. Not everybody can do everything, but everybody can do something. And if you're into international solidarity, then you start that. If you're into art, start organizing there. If you're into the faith community, start organizing there. If you're in the, but we've got to have a massive movement. This guy, we have every reason to believe that this movement, this Trump movement, is here to stay. We beat them in the last election, and we thought they were done. They were not done. In fact, they're back worse than ever. There's no reason for anyone to think that we're going to solve this problem by an election. We got to win election and election and election. But you don't start winning the election 18 months before the election. You got to win that on the ground, on the street, right here, right now. And you need to be able to get the people. And I'm telling you, you guys are leading the way. So I know that, you know, I'm hoping you guys are raising some money tonight. I hope people donate. It's so very important. You need resources. You can't expect the fascists to fund your movement. You got to fund your own movement. So that's just the way it is. But I just wanted to let you guys know that from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything that you're doing. I'm so honored to be a friend of yours. And you should never doubt that Brother Keith is right there to help, okay? And I'll be right there, and I'll see all of y'all real soon. Blessings, peace, and love. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You so very much, Keith. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you. Thank you. Right now, I've got another friend that I want to introduce. And that friend, we go back a lot of years. You know her from television, you know her from the movies, but I know her as a voting rights activist who really brought me into the whole world of election protection and election security. Mimi Kennedy, welcome.
Thank you. Oh my God. Andrea, if I'm at all responsible for bringing you into the world of election protection and election security, I can die happy, I'll tell you. Keith's message was very powerful. And there are times when I shudder to look upon what is happening. Well, I mean, I'm always looking at it. We all are. We get up to it in the morning and we see it every night. And I like to look for solutions, and I like to look for cause and effect. And one of the things I wanted to do was talk about Tim Carpenter, because it's the Tim Carpenter Institute, and Tim Carpenter is why I know Andrea. And we've been at this a long time. I just had a picture of Raul Grijalva with Keith Ellison. That was taken in around the time we were organizing. Raul is not with us anymore, and I often think about our ghosts. Tim is one of our ghosts. Tom Hayden is one of our ghosts. We have too many to name at this point. Martin Luther King, of course, was just invoked, and Melissa Hortman. But so where does Tim Carpenter come from? I just need to do this because a lot of people don't know everything. He was born in 1959, Phoenix, Arizona. His father sold ice cream toppings. They were asked to move to Southern California because ice cream toppings was a big thing in Southern California. And so he goes to Orange County. He's in sixth grade at a Catholic school in Tustin, and he picked a name out of a hat at civics class, and it became his thing that he had to do, which was work on Senator John Tunney's campaign, who was a very liberal guy. Tim fell in love with politics. He met Hubert Humphrey during that campaign as an 11-year-old. In 1971, he's like now a teenager. The All Things Must Pass album from George Harrison affected him so deeply that it changed his whole religious perspective. And one day he got on the loudspeaker at the Catholic school and played My Sweet Lord. And he was almost kicked out of the school by the principal, whose name was Father Salmon. Anyway, he was diagnosed with arthritis in high school. And I didn't know this. He had to spend his last 2 years of high school in bed at home. He couldn't go to school, but he graduated, of course. And he started with his political connections, and he met Jerry Brown, and he met Tom Hayden's Senate campaign, state Senate campaign. Um, and he was working for Orange County Supervisor Edison Miller, and he decided to quit and take a vow of poverty and live in a garage. And he was working with Catholic worker, in their soup kitchen. And then he was working against the nuclear and military buildup that was happening under Jimmy Carter. So he did things like, and then Ronald Reagan became president, and that ramped up his activism. At one point, he held a mock press conference at the headquarters of Rockwell International, the builder of the MX missile here and the B-1 bomber, and he invited a person to play Santa Claus, and they made an announcement that nuclear war could turn the North Pole into radioactive waste, and both he and Santa Claus were arrested. And within a year, he was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. And they all thought he was dying. He had 3 operations. Nuns were praying for him. Native American shamans were doing sweats for him. And a priest was called in to give him last rites. Who was it? Father Salmon, who had almost kicked him out of Catholic school 10 years before. They went and did an operation, and the cancer they were looking for was completely gone. So they think it was one of those things you call a miracle, but you can't say that's happening. Anyway, that all happened. He helped organize the Orange County chapter of Families Against Three Strikes. That was a law here, California, under Pete Wilson, I think it was, that was just sending so many Black guys to prison, from like age 13. It was hideous. And he did all that. He lost an eye to his arthritis. But this all happened before I met him. So I met him because he had worked on the Dennis Kucinich campaign, which was an anti-war campaign in 2004 in the Democratic primary. John Kerry got the nomination and disappointed us all because our winter soldier from Vietnam, who had thrown his medals over the fence, didn't bring up the Iraq War during the campaign. And we lost again to George W. Bush. At that point, I, who had worked on the Kucinich campaign, Tim had asked me then, let's start this thing called Progressive Democrats of America, and you'll be chair. And I'm like, chair? I've never been at a grown-up meeting. I'm an actress. I play dolls for a living. And he went, no, you're going to be fine. And I was fine. But at our first 2005 conference, I, by that time, knew that elections were being stolen. Now, this is something that's very hard to talk about now because the whole Stop the Steal thing and all those idiot lawyers and Sidney Powell and everybody else has completely smeared the idea of questioning an election count. But let's face it, folks, digital elections were the first thing George Bush did in 2002. Even before the Iraq War, he wanted to pass the Help America Vote Act. Most important thing, why? Get electronic voting all over America. And by the way, he sold it to John Conyers and the Black community as you'll have all these machines. You won't have to wait in line anymore. It's so easy. You just push a button and it'll be in your Black community. Okay, great. So we all got hornswoggled. And Tom Hayden said at that 2005 January conference, I'm amazed how many of you think maybe that this election was stolen. That started my work. And since then, it's 20 years ago now, I have watched a great improvement with people like Benny Smith and all of us who have worked. I'm sure there's many on this call. Paper ballots are back in America. We do have them. We don't use them to hand count or check an election because it's considered blasphemous to suspect that an election hasn't gone properly, but we do have them. Now, you've noticed they can't let people cast paper ballots anymore, especially Black people or young people or Democrats, or because, they're the wrong kind of people voting. And my God, if we have their actual paper ballots and it proves that they've won, as happened with the Biden thing in Georgia and Arizona, people counted the paper ballots on TV. And I thought most of America doesn't even know that this is kind of new, that 8 years ago, nobody could have done this. There were no paper ballots to count in a lot of these elections. And I have also noticed that in elections, we are electing some fantastic people. Keith just spoke of Mamadi, I can never pronounce his name right. AOC, so many great people. Keith as Attorney General. But when it comes to the balance of federal power, 1 or 2 districts in the House, 1 state in the Senate, the people will stop at nothing, including lawlessness, deceit, and murder. So we are up against it, as Keith said. And the court of public opinion is being swayed by these marches all across the world because fear of losing liberty is a big deal. And people who love liberty and ordinarily might go, my Second Amendment rights, my right to life, my right to everything, suddenly they understand this could all get shut down. They're watching it happen to people getting snatched off the street. If we want to change this ruling class majority, the election has to be both honest and secure, and people have to be able to vote. And I believe that many people look at voting as an exam and they're afraid they'll fail it. They don't know enough stuff about it. So Andrea has done an amazing thing, and the Tim Carpenter Institute is going to do more to teach people what goes on in their jurisdiction, exactly how to go in their jurisdiction, exactly what to expect, exactly the traps to avoid, exactly how to do it so they can feel great about doing it and teach each other. That's my little teeny part of addressing what's going on, from genocide to murder of our legislators and our public officials like El Salvador. By the way, it's sad to me, but Keith said nobody likes Bukele in El Salvador. Sadly, undocumented people I know here, the ones most on the front line, have said, oh, things are great. We can travel back now to our country because it's great. We have a great guy and it's safe now. So the court of public opinion, safety is not to be underestimated, that sense of wanting to be safe. I mean, and I do think that if people learn how to vote, they will feel safe and they will vote their hearts for social justice and racial justice and solidarity, the things Keith talked about. I truly believe it. So that's the Tim Carpenter Institute, from a guy who did all that amazing stuff, and he's still with us He was afraid of nothing, and I'm sure he's not even afraid of death. So, if he wants to be here, he'll be here. Thank you for letting me have anything to say here, because it really makes me happy.
Oh, thank you. That's so beautiful. And, I want to thank also Sheila Carpenter's here with us, along with Juju. And again, we're just honoring the memory of Tim and continuing his work. And beautiful story there, Mimi. And again, I'm so honored to work in Tim's the pathway that Tim trailblazed and continue on with it. Of course, the event tonight is not for PDA, but for the Tim Carpenter Institute, and the two have a very strict firewall between them, of course. And but the Democracy Defenders program is a part of a new program that is being launched that builds off of the voters calendar that Mimi was the inspiration behind and called upon us to start. And of course, it's a educational information for the public on how to best participate in our democracy. And the Democracy Defenders program, which we'll be talking about shortly, will continue that further. And thank you so much, Mimi, for everything that you do. And you're an absolute champion of building an honest democratic society in America, and we need more of you. And I know that Nina will be joining us shortly, but let me know what's up next, Andrea.
And is here. So let's go with Christian.
Oh, great. Well, look, Christian Nunez is an amazing person who I've got to know since I've been working again in the trail blazed by Tim Carpenter. And I just been so honored to. I've always, of course, followed the National Organization for Women, and I've always thought of myself as an ally to all women and to feminists in particular, and been very supportive of what in my day was known as the women's movement and second wave, third wave, and all contemporary feminisms. And I think Christian Nunez is just a visionary leader. She has brought a spirit of the necessity of, making sure that the vision for now reaches to all of society, and is just has a social worker background. And I just so look forward to working with Christian Nunez going forward and all that we do with the Tim Carpenter Institute going forward and at PDA. So welcome, Christian Nunez.
Thank you so much, Alan. And thank you, Andrea, as well, PDA and Center for Common Ground for hosting this fundraiser tonight and all the wonderful speakers. And thank you again to AG Keith Ellison for always setting the tone for the evening. And I appreciate you and what you're doing as well. And I'm thankful to be here with all of you who I know are truly committed to the democracy that we believe in and we've worked hard for. But today, I also want to say, and I'm thankful for my space and now too, let me say that as well. But today, I really want us to think about what today is. It's July 2nd, and it's a Civil Rights Day, right? The commemoration of Civil Rights Day. And as we should all be celebrating this, and we should all be celebrating all the victories that we won, it's unfortunate that we have to talk about and confront the harsh reality that right now, the rights that we thought we had secured and are crumbling right before our very eyes and under our feet. Every morning brings a new evidence that the democracy of our ancestors fought and died for is under siege. And that siege is a deliberate, strategic, violent, and accelerating attack. We are living through an unprecedented assault on some of our most fundamental rights, geared by, you know, the main person in charge who's leading our country, the President of the United States and his administration. Women's bodily autonomy, a right so basic, is being just questioned constantly and stripped away. And we're seeing it erased in states after states. We're seeing it replaced by a system of subjugation that treats our bodies as vessels for state control. And they feel that just funding a few $1,000s is good enough to sell our bodies, which reminds me a lot of the time during the slavery movement. We are watched as forced pregnancies become policy. We're watched as voting rights are taken away. We're watching just persons who've always fought so hard just to be seen and heard are now being told they don't even have a place in this country, even if they were born here. It is so much that we're seeing, but the truth of all of this is that this is all wrapped up in white supremacist paternalism. And that's what we're seeing happen in our voting rights being attacked, our reproductive rights being attacked, our immigration rights, our LGBTQIA plus rights, our economic rights. All of these are under this paternalistic view of who is deemed human beings and who is not, who's disposable and who isn't. So I think it's important that we recognize this as our reality right now and why it is so, so very important that we move to a movement like Keith Elson said, that it's about solidarity and not siloed movements anymore. Because being siloed hasn't got us anywhere except us prioritizing our equality, which it truly is just an equality. We have to look at the fact that voting rights legislation is packaged, right, as efforts to save America, but it's systematically creating more a modern caste system. Those who have survived racial injustices, who have endured centuries of oppression, are now being penalized for their very own survival. We see poll taxes disguise election integrity. We see gerrymandering silence communities of color and the disabled and women. We see voter purges that are targeting the most vulnerable, the most poor, and the most marginalized. But yet, we keep talking about, I keep hearing this thing about like, we have to save our democracy. But the problem is, I think we have to look at too, is that we're also watching elected officials who campaigned on the promises for the people are now choosing power over the people. They too have become complicit in this very oppression that they once claimed to oppose. And they have forgotten that they are here to serve us and not just the rule. So I think we need to think about where we're at right now and what this time calls for. The time for polite requests and patient waiting is over. We are past the point of restoration. We must recreate democracy itself. The structures that have failed us repeatedly cannot simply be reformed anymore. They must be reimagined and rebuilt from the ground up with empathy, with justice, and equity as their foundation. This requires a progressive movement that is uncompromising in its vision and relentless in its actions. We need leaders to understand that true democracy cannot exist when half the population is treated as second-class citizens. We need candidates who won't just talk about change during election season, but who will fight for it every single day. And they'll involve their communities. That's why, as I'm here at this fundraiser, I'm calling on all of us, we each have a role in this, to make a commitment to the true democracy that we want to see so that we can win in 25 and 26. We have to make sure that we're committing some time in our week, not just during the election cycle, to strategize to shift this narrative that we're seeing. We must identify, we must support, and we must empower intergenerational, multiracial, multi-faith candidates who share our vision of true democracy. These are the leaders who will help us create the democracy we all want and believe in, not just patch up the one that's always have some lines of depression and oppression in it. So as we go today, I really, really want to encourage everyone to remember that this is not a dream deferred. This is an urgent mission that requires all of us right now. It is time for all of us to disrupt it. And I believe everyone on this call is here because you're ready to disrupt and understand the magnitude of this moment. You understand that you are now not facing another political cycle, but a defining moment in our American history. We are fighting fascism. We are fighting power. We are fighting white supremacy. We're fighting misogyny. And we are fighting xenophobia. We have to understand, and transphobia as well. We have to understand that these choices before us is not between conservative and liberal, but it's about justice and oppression, between democracy and authoritarianism, and between a future where all people are free and everyone is free, just not those who can afford the seats. So once again, the time right now is to disrupt, and we can start that by investing in organizations like PDA and the Center for Common Ground and the Center, who we know are going to do the right work. And we can't just invest by saying we're going to invest. We have to have integrity in our investment. We need to put our money forth. We need to put our power forth. We need to put the boots to the ground. So I'm asking all of you to do whatever you can. Put that DoorDash, the Uber Eats money, that weekend happy hour, put it down and support a cause that's going to make sure that they're doing the work to recreate the democracy we all dream for. And on that note, I thank you, and I'm looking forward to co-creating with all of you.
You rock, Christian Nunes. You really do. Thank you so much. That is
So
incredible.
much.
And I love your analysis, and I love the direct, honest, true call out of everything you said. And Andrea, I know we got Nina next. Is Nina next on deck?
Yeah, Nina is here. Now we are a tiny bit behind. So, Nina, rock it and roll it as only you can do.
Well, thank you, Sister Miller. I appreciate that. And Christian,
Now, you remember when we met in Ohio in 2013 or 2014? I was there talking about the ERA, and that is when I met you.
I do remember that, and I see that you are still on this journey for justice. It's great to be in community with you, with Alan, with Christian, and so many others of you who are on here today. I do count it all joy. I mean, Sister Christian, she just did that daggone thing. Let me just go and say amen, everything that she said. Sister Mimi, I got a chance to hear some of your stuff too while I was walking with my grandbabies, trying to get back to my laptop. I just count it all joy, the Jim Carpenter Institute and what Brother Jim stood for, how PDA is continuing to carry the mantle. Democracy is not some abstract, a concept. It's real. And even though it feels like we have lost it in this moment, this is not the only moment where it has felt to everyday people like democracy was slipping out of our hands. This is a representative democracy. It really is a republic. I won't go totally academic on you, but let me just say this. All that we love is on the line. So I want you to wrap our concept of democracy into all that we love is on the line. That's all. Nothing too big. Just what we love. And so if we love having unfettered access to the ballot box, it's on the line. It's been on the line for a long time. But what President Donald J. Trump has done is he has personified what has always been on the line. That we're dealing with a system, whether it's voting rights, whether it's having health care or not having health care, and the cruelty of living in a hegemonic nation where these folks can just cavalierly cut the little bit of stuff that the working poor has. All that we love, our love is on the line. People are going to lose their SNAP benefits. We're going to lose Medicaid. Right now, they debating all that. These people who are on the public dime for their own health care, riddle me this. How is it that these callous folks who are receiving their health care by our tax dollars got the pure unadulterated gall to not only fight for or push for universal health care, but now they want to cut working class people off of Medicaid, take away SNAP benefits. So all that we love is on the line in terms of the concept of democracy. And I thank God, I thank the Creator, thank whoever you thank, or thank nobody. I thank you, the people, who are willing to work through PDA, through the vision of Jim Carpenter, to be able to educate and to lift, to remind people, to edify people about this democracy and how it is participatory. It's not a spectator sport. You cannot sit on the sidelines and cheer for one team or another. You got to be in it. You got to get in it. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to be willing to make sacrifices, or there will always be some force that will come along and try to snatch away the progress that we make generation after generation after generation after generation. Now we can sit back and bemoan the fact that we're in this moment, or we can do something about it. And that is what this Jim Carpenter Institute is about. It is going to be a vehicle to do something about it. James Baldwin once said that not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. And we have a lot of work to do. We've always had a lot of work to do. Hopefully now, through the problems, we see the promise, and it will light a fire under us to work harder, to work faster, to work deeper, and absolutely to work in solidarity. So I'm sending so much love. I cannot wait to continue to work with PDA on this particular project. And then shout out to Sister Carpenter, who I understand Sister Miller is on this call today, just lifting her up and just sending her so much love, because no great person, they're always greater with their other half. So we get by with a little help from our friends. And so I just want to thank her and the entire Carpenter family. To you, Alan Minsky, and the entire PDA team, thank you for being one of those very rare groups that tell the truth in season and out of season, and that you are always, always on the side of justice. We are definitely all in this together. So I look forward to this great work.
Thank you. I'm going to have a little fun. I'm going to do thank you and thank Christian. I want to show people where we are. So give me 1 second. And I want you to take a look. Let me get that live display up and running. And as you donate, you will be able to see, oh, look at these donations coming in. Everything that you donate goes to the cause. Now, I have 2 donations that I need to put in. We are at almost $7,400. I have got a $250 donation to put in, and one of my board members is here, and I will be putting in a $5,000 matching donation for him. So just wanted to show you that. And we will continue on with the program. All right, Alan. Co-host Alan again. He went out of the room, Gabe. So let's grab Alan. Let's co-host Alan. And we are ready to bring up our next speaker.
Thank you so much. And sorry, my internet connection dropped, and I'm not sure why that was, so I apologize to everybody. But I do want to, of course, piggyback off of what both Christian and Nina were saying. And of course, this is a fundraiser, and it's a co-fundraiser for 2 501c3 recognized IRS institutions, the Center for Common Ground, the Tim Carpenter Institute. So everybody's donations tonight will be tax deductible fully by the full extent of the law. All your money will be tax deductible. And give what you can to support these 2 great institutions. And where, as I introduce somebody who has inspired us at the Carpenter Institute, not at PDA, at the Carpenter Institute, to extend the Mimi Kennedy inspired Voters Calendar Project to a Democracy Defenders program. And the inspiration comes from one Robert Wilson. Robert and I met a while back, but I really certainly fully connected with Robert Wilson when I met him at a Housing for Human Rights conference in Los Angeles. And I'd met him before, but he made such an amazingly strong impression upon me, and we stayed in touch. And when this election happened, Robert kept, encouraging me to do what I could do in the privileged position that I am in leading the 3 organizations that I lead, to do everything I could possibly do to preserve our democracy and strengthen our democracy. Robert Wilson is the former Assistant Secretary of State of North Carolina. North Carolina has been ground zero for wave after wave after wave of attack on the democratic rights of the people of North Carolina. And these have been targeted attacks in a way to particularly diminish the capacity and the right to vote of particular communities. And I think there's no illusion about which communities in particular have been focused upon and whose rights have been limited, and in fact, whose access to voting has been restricted and limited. And so I've had so many constructive dialogues with Robert Wilson. And the Democracy Defenders Project is in many respects building off of the authorship of the Voters Calendar by Mimi Kennedy. And the true author of our Democracy Defenders program is Robert Wilson. And the idea is very simple. We are going to take 51 different people who have a profile such that they will be understood by the public as honest arbiters and experts on democratic rights and voting rights, to go out into the public and to be available year-long to explain to the public how access to voting is changing. And Robert Wilson is anchoring in North Carolina for us, just as the great Secretary of State of Colorado, Jenna Griswold, will anchor the program in Colorado. We'll be talking to Keith Ellison about anchoring in Minnesota, Nina Turner anchoring in Ohio, the Secretary of State's team in Arizona anchoring, and we're going to get 51 different experts through the program of the Democracy Defenders Program. And this is what you're supporting when you can donate tonight, is so that we can fully fund this. We already have a grant from the Annenberg Foundation, but it only gets us halfway there, folks. So we're really looking to raise a good $30,000 here so that we can fully fund the Democracy Defenders Program. And again, it wouldn't be taking place at all if not for the gentleman I'm introducing now, Robert Wilson. Welcome, Robert.
Alan, I thank you immensely. I tell you, I'm very humbled by that introduction. And it is very enlightening to have you give me such high praise. I don't think I'm deserving of that because I believe that we're in this thing together, but I thank you immensely. And let me begin by saying good evening, everyone. It is my honor to address this forum this evening, and that is due partly because currently I feel that there is a sense of deception sweeping across this country. People are becoming more and more fearful of losing what they have and what they have worked so hard for: their homes, their jobs, their family, and yes, their health care. And when I talk to my friends in the faith community, they always tell me just have a little faith. Well, I tell them that the good book tells me that faith without work is dead. That means that we all have to heed the call to action. We can't continue to wait for the great hope. We have to save ourselves. We are at a point of being immersed in what Dr. Martin Luther King called the fierce urgency of now. This is a moment in time when a generation of people, we the people, are called upon to preserve our own destiny. Our failure to act is not an option. Today, we continue to make sense of trying to defend the indefensible and nonsensical. Yet, my mind harkens back to a few words written in the Declaration of Independence in 1776. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, government are instituted among men, deriving their powers from us, the people. These words give me strength and assurance that we, the people, can do anything we want to do. We are and we must and will always be the leaders that we have been looking for. The condition we find ourselves in today can and will improve once we come together and agree on a common goal for all of us. Red, yellow, black, brown, white. We're all in this thing together. Let's stop turning on one another and start turning to each other for strength and guidance. Now, I know some of you might call me old-fashioned and yes, naive. And if you want to, that's okay. But I still believe that good and honorable people want a decent, livable wage, a nice place to live, public safety, quality public education for themselves and their children, and access to good health care. Together, we can make all of this happen. So let's come together on every level, local, state, and federal levels, to get our democracy back. There is simply too much at stake if we don't. So in closing, I would remind you of a saying by a poet named Alice Earle, and it's simple, but yet very powerful. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called a present. It is up to each one of us to work together to save our democracy. I thank you for your time, and God bless.
Thank you so much, Bob Wilson. You are an inspiration to me, and I thank you so much. There were times when we hadn't spoken for a few weeks, and he'd call, and I'd remember, oh my word, yes, this is a priority, a top priority, and I'd get back on it. All this wouldn't be happening without you, so thank you so much, sir. And I so look forward to working together going forward.
Thank you, Al.
I'm going to introduce two of my very, very, very dear friends. First, I am going to introduce Heather Booth. So, what I want people to know about Heather is, Heather, you are so much a huge part of American civil rights history. Heather knew Fannie Lou Hamer. Heather was on that bus that went to Mississippi to register Black voters. When women were fighting to be able to have a safe abortion and live through it, it was Heather who came up with a plan, and the name Jane. So, my dear friend, Heather Booth, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Andrea Miller, you are beyond generous, and you are such a core as an organizer. And tonight we come together in part to fund the work that you're doing on building these democracy centers, doing the registration, engaging and listening to people, and doing the real work. So I encourage everyone to sign up, fund, and follow the leadership that Andrea Miller is providing. And Alan Minsky, you are building on that work that Tim Carpenter created, and others in Progressive Democrats of America, as well as this Carpenter Institute. I just want to say it has been an honor to be part of a program with this wonderful lineup from Keith Ellison, who I worked for and am still so proud of that connection, and Mimi Kennedy. We've actually found out we've even got a family connection. I mention it with pride. Your leadership, your talent, your grace is just remarkable. And Nina Turner and Christian Nunez, and then Robert Wilson right now. Well, I could spend all my time talking just with recognition of the speakers, but it's also you, the people who are watching this program. You are the people who will make the future. And when we organize with love at the center, we have changed this world, and we will change this world. We saw that we can change it as the numbers are growing in one day of action after another. Keith Ellison mentioned June 14th. I was in the No Kings demonstration. There probably were others on this call around the country. There were over 5 million people who came out on that day. Erica Chenoweth, who's a Harvard researcher, studied actions and organizing against authoritarian regimes and found out that when 3.5% of the population was involved in peaceful protest, they usually overthrew an authoritarian dictatorship, going back over 100 years. My own experience, I saw that on June 14th. I went to, I live in Washington, D.C., the edge of Virginia, for 10 miles, both sides of the street, people with signs and cheering, and the spirit was just infectious and inspiring. I'll just share with you about 3 of the signs that I found most interesting. One was, eggs are so expensive because of the MAGA chickens are in Congress. Thought that was true. The one that I really believe is, this all ends when enough of us say no. One said, I wanted to make a funny sign, but it's not funny anymore. And then there was one funny one of, I'm a gastroenterologist, and I know an a-hole when I see one. And it had pictures of the MAGA caucus. Great spirit and energy. And it wasn't diminished, even though the week and the days before were filled with such horror. 2,000 National Guard in the streets of LA attacking peaceful protesters, exercising our freedom of speech. Just the days before, U.S. Senator Padilla was slammed to the ground and handcuffed for asking a question at a press conference to the head of Department of Homeland Security. I mean, unthinkable actions. And then, as Keith Ellison mentioned, the day before the march, the murder of the great champion, Minnesota State Legislator Melissa Horton and her husband. It's hard to keep up with some of the horrors around us, as well as this big, ugly bill moving through Congress, cutting health care for 16 million people from Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, and 30% cuts now in food and nutrition support, all to give tax breaks to the ultra-wealthy. But our support is growing. 60% think the bill is designed to help the wealthy, and they're right. The lowest income folks, those in the bottom 10%, will lose $2,600 or more if this bill passes. And the highest income, the top 10%, will gain over $7,000. So says the Washington Post. And Trump is declining in his job approval because of what he's doing. The Quinnipiac poll shows that he's going down, and on almost every issue. But yet 46% don't know that their health care will be cut. They haven't received the message, and it's up to us. That's where our organizing comes in, our spreading the message. And one of the reasons to support these 2 centers that you do tonight when you go to this website, givebutter.com/win25. So please give. Now, I learned this lesson myself from my own history, that when we organize with love at the center, we change the world. In 1964, as Andrea mentioned, I was part of the Mississippi Freedom Summer, when Northern students went to Mississippi to support courageous African Americans struggling against terror to get the right to vote. And the 3 young men you've heard about, Andrew Goodman, James Chaney, and Michael Schwerner, were killed at the hands of the Klan. But within a year, we won a Voting Rights Act because we organized with love at the center, or what the Student Nonviolent Committee, Coordinating Committee called fighting for a beloved community. I went back to my community in Chicago, where I was a student, and in 1965, a friend of mine said she was pregnant and not ready to have a child, and I was asked if I could help her find someone to provide an abortion. I found someone through the civil rights movement, an extraordinary doctor, T.R.M. Howard, a great hero, and arranged the abortion. Over time, that led to the creation of an overall service. We called it Jane. And women who I recruited into that service themselves learned how to do and performed 11,000 abortions before Roe, when 3 people talking about performing an abortion was a conspiracy to commit a very serious felony. But because we organized, we won Roe, and we changed the world for nearly 50 years, and now there's a pushback on all of these rights. But when we organize, we have changed this world, and we will change this world. And the struggle goes on. We mentioned June 14th, but on July 17th, there'll be another day of action. It's the John Lewis Day, remembering his passing. And you should go to a website, go to goodtroubleliveson.org, goodtroubleliveson.org. July 17th, there are already 800 events that are listed on that day. And then July 26th, it's just before the 60th anniversary of Medicaid that they're now trying to dismantle. But there will be demonstrations around the country in all 50 states on that day. They're going for breadth more than the size of what they'll be doing. Service employees are key amongst groups organizing for that, as well as caring across generations. And you are the people who make this possible. You are the people who do the organizing, who spread the message, who raise the funds, and I do hope you're going to fund these 2 organizations tonight. And you do the work. You spread the message, you talk to people, you do the organizing. And when we organize with love at the center, we will change this world. In 1964 in Mississippi, in Freedom Summer, people might say to each other, "Are you willing to die for freedom?" I very much wanted to live, but I was willing to take that risk. But now the question is, are you willing to live for freedom? Are you willing to do the work every day when it's too hot, it's too cold, I'm too tired, I'm too bored, I've already done 2 phone calls, I've got to do some more? And the answer is yes. And when we do the organizing with love at the center, we will change this world. Thank you all for what you've done and what we're about to do together.
Thank you so much, Heather. I have the absolute privilege to on Monday, Thursdays, and every other Friday to work with not only Heather Booth, but Robert Freeman. I met Bob at a progressive round table. It was an event that Tim Carpenter started where we had a meeting in Congress with members of Congress and with executive directors from progressive organizations, and we talked about legislation and what would be good for the country. And I met Bob when he was with his wife, Jan, who was a member of the Progressive Caucus. Bob has been an activist all his life. He grew up in Louisiana, and in every place he's been, he has, as Heather said, organized, organized, and organized. So, Bob, I hope you are still here.
I'm still here. Right
All
with you.
right, Gabe, would you be good enough to, all right, for whatever reason, I cannot,
There we go. We got it.
pin Bob. So go ahead and pin Bob.
Okay, we got it now. Okay, good. Well, first off, it's a privilege to be here tonight with all of you, with you, Andrea, with you, Alan, and with all these wonderful speakers, and in particular honoring a hero of the movement, Tim Carpenter, absolutely hero. My friend Reggie Hubbard says, if you can't get them to hope, you can't get them to vote. So I want to present to you 6 reasons why we can win if we, or as you Heather says, if we organize. First, let's just look quickly at why we lost. We lost in 2024 because working people wanted to blow the system up, because 60% of them in the exit polls, of not just working people, 60% of the voters said, I'm living worse off than I was. And I'm going to be worse off than my kids will be worse off than my parents. Now, how can that be possible in a country that's the richest country in the world at the richest time in history? It's easy to see. Over the last 40 years, we've had a 70% increase in productivity per hour, but only a 12% increase in wages. And the rest of it all went to Elon Musk and his pals, all those rich people. So people are not doing so well. They want to blow things up. And Trump said, I'll blow it up for you. Now, he's unfortunately blowing it up for all the billionaires, which is a key point. So, number 1, Trump's big, ugly bill has provided us the perfect opportunity to turn around that narrative and make it clear who's on the side of ordinary working people. Because it presents us with the opportunity to be very clear. They're trying to cut health care, take food from the mouths of small children, to give tax breaks to billionaires, to transfer wealth to billionaires. Perfect. And we're doing that. Democrats are doing that uniformly. And it's reflected in the polling, which is point 2. Let's look at the polling real quick. As Heather mentioned, the big, beautiful bill, Quinnipiac, found 58% opposed, 39% favor. The Fox poll found 59% opposed and 38% favor. 49% of those in the Fox poll thought that it would hurt their family personally. Only 23% thought it would help their family. Overall, job approval of Trump has been bouncing around in the low 40s, his disapproval in the high 50s on all the polling. The Hill poll says most Americans disapprove of Trump's erratic, authoritarian, and incompetent leadership. On the economy, the RCP, that's Real Clear Politics average, which is usually kind of skews conservative, says he has a negative 12.5 points. 42.5% approve, 55% disapprove on the economy, the key issue. On foreign policy, he's down 11 points, 42% approve, 53.4% disapprove. On immigration, his big issue, Quinnipiac says 57% disapprove and 40% approve. So we're doing well at driving down those numbers. That's one reason why we can win. And social proof matters, by the way. Not just is that a measure of how well we're doing, but it also says to other people, oh, if other people feel that way, that must be right. Social proof is one of the most important elements in politics. Number 3, we're putting people in motion. And there is no better way to convince people to be committed to something than put them in motion. Heather talked about all these great events. We're putting them out in the streets. We're beating the drum on social media and earned media. We're contacting people by phones. Massive mobilizations going on. Huge plus. Number 4, Democrats have shown stronger than expected performance in all of the special elections since 2024, since November. Democrats have outperformed our 2024 presidential election margins by in most special elections, and in the median seat has shifted 13 points for Democrats since November 2, 2024. Number 5, these bad votes on the big ugly bill, which, by the way, win or lose, my wife is about to head over, Jan Schakowsky is about to head over to the Capitol now to vote on the rule. We're going to see how it ultimately turns out, but however it turns out, it'd be horrible if it passes in the end for people. But as a political matter, one way or the other, we got them on record voting for all this stuff. And that is particularly important when it comes to the 20 some odd House members that are really in play. There are 20 House members really in play, according to the Cook report, and we only need 4. The Senate, there are 22 Republican seats up, only 13 Democrat seats up. Is big time in play are North Carolina, where Tillis is not running, Maine, where Collins, please, God love her, Iowa, for We All Die, Joni Ernst is running, Ohio, it's an open seat. That'd be particularly great to win if Sherrod may run again. We got to hang on to New Hampshire, Minnesota, and Michigan, which are all open seats. We have a good shot at that. And in Georgia, the Ossoff campaign is doing really well. Then there are the sleepers. We just saw an announcement by Al Red running for Texas Senate again. Kentucky's an open seat, and we've got some really good candidates looking there. Alabama. Remember, Doug Jones was the senator there for a time. He may be running again. It's an open seat. So that's number 5. The configuration of the votes that are in play. Number 6, history. And I bet some of y'all don't know this. In the 11 midterms since 1982, the party of the president has lost seats in the House in 81% of the midterm elections. A total of 246 seats were lost, an average of 27.3 seats per election in those elections. The party of the president has won a total of 12 seats in 6 elections in 2 midterms in the House. In the Senate, the party of the president has lost 29 seats in the six of the 11 midterms and won only 6 seats in 4 elections. In 1 election, there was no change. In 2010, after the ACA passed, I just want y'all to remember, the Republicans took 63 seats in the House and 6 in the Senate. And that was not because the ACA was a bad bill or an unpopular one in the end, because today 59% support it and 5% are opposed only. A 34-point margin for it now. It was because the Republicans and their Tea Party allies mobilized in those districts, number 1, and also argued that Obamacare was taking away our health care. Now, people are much more easily mobilized around things that somebody's trying to take away from them. Whether it passes or not, the big ugly bill is an attempt to take away people's health care, to fund and taking away food from the mouths of small children, poor children, to give tax breaks to billionaires. That's a winning message if it is coupled with a clear vision of the kind of society we stand for. Proudly and unapologetically, just ask Zoran how he did it in New York. And mobilize ordinary working people. We can win in 25, we can win in 26, 25 this year. Maybe got to win in Virginia, big. It'll be an earthquake if we do. 26 and 28. We can use this whole occasion as the thing we pivot off of to create a truly democratic society. The facts are there, but they don't make things of themselves. It's all about up for us, and that's part of the reason why you got to give money to all these folks who are trying to ask for it tonight. Thanks very much.
Thank you so very much, Bob. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, what we are going to do is we are going to bring up 2 Democracy Center leaders. So Virginia in 2025, Janet's Gay. North Carolina will be one of the places we'll be working in 2026. We work to turn out the Black vote. We've got 1.45 million Black voters in North Carolina, and we've got 936,000 Black voters in Virginia. And I just sent all 936,000 addresses to our data wrangler for postcards. So let's bring up, we'll do Brandon first. Let's bring up Brandon because Brandon talks fast. So this is Mr. Brandon Rivers. He is in Charlotte in 2022. The Black voter turnout in Charlotte, 239,000 Black voters. 97,000 of them voted. Brandon came in, and in 2024, 173,000 Black voters voted. So, Mr. Brandon.
Listen, it's an honor to be on here. It's actually sort of humbling to come after all these great speakers. So just super excited to be on this call. Again, my name is Brandon Rivers. I run the Charlotte Democracy Center in North Carolina. And one of our biggest things that we speak about is let's be transformative and not transactional. I hear a lot of people speak about the general elections, right? You know, Trump this, Trump that. But honestly, truthfully, our local elections matter the most, especially in the state of North Carolina and Virginia, right? But honestly, in all of our states. So one of the things that we try to focus on is year-round engagement. If we can get people voting in local municipal election and voting in midterms, the chances of them voting in the general elections is just extremely higher, right? I mean, it's just truthful, right? We understand that, you know, local and midterm elections might not be as exciting. You know, it's easy to talk about Trump this and Trump that and Elon Musk. And, you know, that's what, you know, typical news stations like CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. But what we do at the Charlotte Democracy Center, we focus on making sure that everyone knows what's going on a local basis, right? Understanding their local laws, understanding, you know, that most of the voters in North Carolina are single issue voters, understanding that, you know, voting matters at every level. So what we do is we meet people where they are. We partner with high schools. We are nonpartisan. So we work in high schools where we go inside the high schools. We get them registered to vote. We get them pre-registered to vote, but we also get them out to vote. A lot of people don't know in the state of North Carolina, if you're 16, you can pre-register to vote. And if you're 17, you can vote in the primary as long as you're 18 before the general election. So every year we have students that vote twice before they graduate from high school. So you have to understand, when you have students that are voting twice before they graduate from high school, their chance of them becoming lifelong voters is just highly increased. We work in marginalized communities, so we understand a lot of them come from different backgrounds. Some of the students that we speak to, they come from families that vote, right? You might have families that might have run for local office, but we speak to some students that their parents don't vote at all. So a lot of time their students are their first generational voters, and they're able to trickle down their effect even to their parents. We pass out information, Vote Your Power, Vote Your Issues, which has QR codes to check your voter registration, do surveys to find out what issues matter the most to you, find out what benefits that you qualify for, right? You know, understanding vote is important, but, you know, people have issues, you know, affordable housing, you know, we have a lot of food deserts here in North Carolina, right? You know, mental health is an issue. So understanding that we have a QR code to find out, you know, even though you're registered with us, we want to make sure that we're able to not just be transactional, again, be transformative. How can we change your life? And we also have a QR code for ActiVote, which is a great platform which allows people to figure out what they align with and what issues that matter the most to them. We partner with the sheriff department here in North Carolina, right? We work with our local sheriff departments. We go inside the detention centers. Our sheriffs are elected officials, and a lot of times a lot of the inmates in these detention centers, or what I like to say, residents of these detention centers, truthfully don't like these sheriffs, but they allow us to come in and get them registered to vote. We take a team of volunteers that go in. We provide absentee ballots. We get a notary to come inside the jail. We provide stamps and envelopes, and we let them know that, you know, judges are elected officials. We let them know that, you know, the sheriff is an elected official. A lot of them don't even know that. So understanding when you just go in and you're passing out pieces of paper, these people aren't going to go out and vote. But when you let them know that their vote really matters, they'll get out to vote. I know we're running through time, so I'll end on this. One of the biggest targets that we love to focus on, just like she said, is meeting people where they're at. So we understand people can't come to town halls. People can't come to events like this, right? Everyone might not be as civically engaged. So we're at the Black Food Truck Fridays. We're at all the HBCUs. You know, we have a lot of PWIs here in North Carolina, but they're full of marginalized people. So people don't realize college students they're probably the hardest to vote, right? You know, they're moving from out of state. So every year we're at these campuses during open house, getting them registered to vote. Their chances of voting on campus increases, I think, to maybe 70 to 80% from them actually going home. We work with the Board of Elections statewide in North Carolina to make sure that all their photo IDs are acceptable on these campuses. And if they're not, where we can get mobile units to these campuses because we have photo ID here. So our goal is just to make sure that voting is a easy access, and your donation tonight is going to contribute to help funding this type of thing. I always like to let people know it's so much money during general election season, right? You saw when Vice President Harris went, when she was say she was running for election, you see all this money. And I remember last year, I mean, we had enough money to hire hundreds of organizers. And after November the 5th, it's just like the money just drops. And what it does, it discourages people from wanting to actually do the work, especially in marginalized communities, right? You know, I have a daughter, right? And I have a family. And a lot of times when you want to do this work, especially during election cycle, it's hard for you to take these jobs and say, hey, I'm going to take this great job, but it ends November the 5th. And I know people that worked for the election cycle last year that are still out of work, and they will not work in 2026, and they will not work in 2028 because they'll say, you know what, it really wasn't worth it. So you guys support organizations like the Center for Common Ground and other organizations that are year-round. This is what really makes us be able to continue to do the work. So thank y'all so much for being on. And Janice is going to be way better than me. Janice is a firecracker. So thank y'all so much.
Right. You bring it in. So as you can see, we are looking good in North Carolina. We are next bringing up Janice Gay. Janice Gay is in Virginia Beach, and Janice is just everything. Janice started our paid phone bank team, and the very first year they started, Janice had them, the very first week they started, Janice had them laying down, it was 7,000 calls a week when we had this insane firehouse primary for a congressional seat. There were 16 counties, and you're going to love this, 8 voting locations on a Saturday. The party thought, 16,000 people are going to show up. Janice and her crew, 26,000 people showed up to vote on one day, a Saturday, with 5 days notice. So Janice, let's talk about democracy centers, democracy hubs, and working in the communities that, frankly, with all these bad things that are happening, they are hurt the first and they are hurt the worst.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Janice Gay. I am your organizer for Virginia Beach and Norfolk Democracy Center. We are so fired up for this upcoming election. Why? Because we know Virginia, all eyes are on us. And so our focus for our Democracy Center centers here is to win CD2 and to win it big, yes. And you may say, how are you going to do that? What's your strategy? I'm so glad you asked me that. We will continue our focusing on checking voter registration, civic education, and meeting the needs of our communities by offering free food, clothing, other resources, and yes, partnering with faith-based organizations, community engagements through listening forums, community events, and town hall meetings. Looking ahead, we're not waiting for permission. We're organizing, we're building, and yes, we intend to win CD2. We're going to continue phone banking, keeping our voters informed on phone when we make calls to them. We will continue postcarding, making it very personal, and yes, canvassing, because we canvass in most zip codes that often are ignored. So see, CD2 is ours. It's where we live. We are Virginia. And we still believe that Virginia is for voters. So in closing, if I can leave you with anything, I want to leave you with this. Where communities organize, democracy always wins. Go Virginia.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, now he's going to be really quick. We're going to bring up our IT director, Gabe Wheaton, and Gabe is going to talk about what you can do for Virginia. In addition to giving us money. So Gabe, take it away, and then Alan and I will wrap up and we will get you out of here.
Thank you so much, Andrea. So yeah, money is really vital, but also so is outreach, and so is organizing, and so is volunteering. And one of the things that makes Center for Common Ground unique is that we have phone banks that we're running, and we're going to start those phone banks up for the Virginia general election in August. So a lot of, as Janice mentioned, all the eyes will be on Virginia in 2025. The narratives for what's going to happen in 2026 are going to start rolling in based on the turnout in Virginia. And Center for Common Ground is going to run phone banks that are calling Black voters in Virginia and basically trying to make voting as easy as possible, helping people find their early voting locations, and all that good stuff. And the link that, let's see, I'm posting the link for our phone bank page. You can sign up. You're going to start seeing regular phone banks on every Tuesday and Thursday that are going to pop up in August. And the nice thing about these phone banks is we leave voicemails, which is one of the ways that they are extra effective, because we're able to reach people and leave all of this info. We're not, asking for money. We kind of cut through all of the noise with political, people making political calls. Obviously, Center for Common Ground is C3, so we're just asking, is there anything you need in order to vote as easily as possible? Can we help find your location? So these have been running for years now, and they've been really successful. The last time in Virginia in 2021, we did a little study afterwards to look at the effectiveness, and we found that people were voting in the group of voters that we called, they were voting at a rate that was 6 percentage points higher. And that was just for the voicemails we left. And then the folks that we were calling, who we had live conversations with, were voting at a rate of 16 or 17% higher. So if you really want to get involved beyond donating, we would absolutely love to have your volunteer hours as a phone banker, because that is it's the most effective way you can actually help our volunteers on the ground, aside from canvassing physically. So you can phone bank from anywhere. So please join us for one of those phone banking events starting August.
Right. Thank you very much, Gabe. I'm going to bring up Alan, and we are so grateful that you joined us tonight. I had fun. I learned some things. We are moving along on the meter. We're at 13,466. So we are on our way to making that $1,000 match. Now, even though the event will be over, the page will remain up. So if you couldn't find your credit card tonight, you can find it tomorrow or next week. We will leave this page up. So, Alan, I had a great time. I want to thank all of my old friends who joined. There were many that I saw, and I'm hoping I made some new ones. Alan.
Yes, indeed. And, I, of course, come out of a public radio background, so I know how to really make a big push for money right now, folks. And we had a $5,000 match on the table. I think everybody's money is going to be doubled right now when they give right now, because we had $6,000 of matching funds on the table. That means we have to match that money in order to double it. So if everybody could give right now, I just put the link into the chat. And by the way, Andrea and I are having a great competition to see who raises more money from each of our two platforms. Right now, Andrea, I'm a little bit ahead of you. So give to Andrea's to have her catch up. Give to Alan Minsky's link to have Alan maybe stay a little bit in the lead of Andrea. So we got a friendly competition there. And, please give to the general fund. But right now, let's give what we can. Money right now is doubled because of the matching funds. And I know that there was a matching fund of $1,000 that Mike Hirsch organized. And then there was a very, very generous donation, but it's a $5,000 matching fund that came in, again, from Deepak Puri. So thank you so much to Deepak. And right now, if people can give, especially at the Win25 link, If you want to get into the friendly competition that Andrea and I are having, please do. Boy, I haven't done this in so long because I'm off of public radio. It's really fun, and it comes like second nature to me, as Mimi Kennedy knows from hearing me all these years. Except I don't have to give out a phone number.
Ellen, I just went to the website, and I had a friend ask me earlier, what do I do there? Because it says you can do, it's all about coming to this event. And
Oh.
then I don't see, they didn't know what to do. And
Well, right now it just says donate. So
okay, and then if you click that,
Uh-huh.
I'm just gonna, this is why I like to educate voters, because I'm always up on stuff like this. Preparing to win, student activist, donor, general admissions supporter, you know, so you go like, okay, I can't just say what I'd like to donate. I have to do one of these amounts. That's the first thing I see. Is that correct?
No, no, no. Well, the event is still going on, so let me end the event.
If I may,
then
you can also just click the "I'd just like to donate" button at the bottom of this list.
At the bottom of.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen right now. So you see all these tiers, and then you can also click "I'd just like to donate."
Oh, okay, okay.
Left-hand corner. Yep, there we go.
How far down is, okay.
I'd just like to donate after scrolling down to the bottom.
I'm so sorry to be, you know, clueless in front of all these people, but I'm hoping that other people can learn from my difficulty. Match my donation, team members, event, no, story, end of, and here's donate. Okay, donate. I'd just like to donate. Okay, it didn't look like a link. Thank you very much. And I'm done. I'm gonna put off my.
wonderful. And people, we started on time. It is 10:01. We are done on time. I don't know about you, Alan, but I had a lot of fun.
It was, yeah, thank you for everybody who participated. Thank you to Bob Kramer. I love what you said. Robert Wilson and Heather Booth and Christian Nunez and Keith Ellison and Nina Turner and Mimi Kennedy. It's been an incredible night. And thank you to Andrea. And thank you really, especially to the two people who work at the democracy centers. And the work there is so important. And as I said at the very top, you know, the work that of the democracy centers fits exactly what Christian Nunez was talking about. You know, the need for a radically different approach to democratic participation. We all know that for years and decades in American society, the level of voting has been almost a straight line from lower participation in poor communities to higher participation in wealthy communities. And then, of course, with the influence that wealthy people have with money in politics, it's skewed even further. And I think the spirit of this event and the spirit of Andrea Miller's work at the Center for Common Ground needs to spread like wildfire, and people will get the bug of a truly participatory democracy through things like the democracy centers that really, really need to be supported. And again, with the Tim Carpenter Institute and us just
You. When you froze.
I think he froze for everybody.
He froze.
Yep.
Okay. Wasn't just me. Okay. I had a thought and then Alan froze and then it distracted me. One of our democracy centers in Roanoke, when they started, 55% of the people in that community did not vote. And last year in 2024, in a municipal election, 79% of the community showed up to vote. Oh, Mike, I see you've got a hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Andrea, your work in your democracy centers and your team, the results speak for themselves. And Andrea usually doesn't like to brag on herself, so I'll do it a little bit for her. Andrea pretty much single-handedly won that special election in Alabama, the Senate race, with Doug Jones. She helped tremendously, along with her team, the wonderful people from the Democracy Centers and the Center for Common Ground. Turned out people to vote in Georgia over and over to get 2 senators elected, 2 Democrats elected in a red state, a Jewish person and a Black person, which, you know, if you'd asked me if I would have bet a nickel on that, I would have said no. And you won by turning people out, and people said, oh, they're not going to come out for the runoff. And they did, thanks to the Democracy Center. Now, another part of this is with the Tim Carpenter Institute, we're going to defend democracy. So when Andrea turns people out, it won't get turned away. So this is 2 wonderful organizations that you can support at the exact same time to get people out to vote and make sure their votes are counted as cast. And that was Tim Carpenter's dream. Tim worked with Andrea on the Southern strategy, and this is the fruition of what Tim Carpenter was working on. And Tim has been a mentor for Andrea, for me, for a lot of us. We love Tim, and we feel him with us in this room right now. And let's make Tim proud. Dig deep. If you've already given, see if you can't give a little bit more. If you haven't given and you can't, we understand. Times are tough for everyone. But one of the things I've been telling people to do is don't spend money unless you absolutely need to. Shop secondhand, make do with what you can, and give money to good causes like these. And when you do spend money, make sure you spend it locally to a women or a minority-owned business, if at all possible, and give what you can right now. If you can't give your money, give your time, but let's do it. Let's get this done. Let's take our democracy back. Let's keep it. Let's kick these fascists back out of power. They crawled in, and we can make them crawl right back out. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mike. Now, everyone who signed up will receive the recording. And in addition to the recording, this meeting is being transcribed. So you will also get the transcription as well. Now, our comms director is on vacation. So that means the IT people, we're going to have to write an email. That might take us a moment. Otherwise, you'll just get a computer geeky email. All the pieces will be there.
We'll do our best.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, everybody.